What's going on, everybody? It's the Bulls Show, aka Aiden, and welcome back to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today I bring a question to you that I would like for you guys to answer in the comments below. And that is, has the Chicago Bulls team become toxic? And do you think it's the toxicity around this team that is the reason why we have been struggling to the point where we have throughout the course of the season? Now, of course, I'm going to give my answer on this situation as well. I know a lot of people are saying a lot of things about the Bulls. There are so many rumors around the Bulls as well. Again, it just seems like the negativity will never end in terms of this team and the way it's currently constructed. So, in order to, I guess, make this type of video, I'll give my opinions on it and whether or not we will see, I guess, even further of this toxicity in the Chicago Bulls. But before we get started, please like and subscribe to the Bulls Show, turn notifications on, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts about the Chicago Bulls overall, I guess. Whether or not, again, do you think they're toxic, and where do you think our future of this team will lie once everything, I guess, is restored to the Chicago Bulls team in the offseason? That's at least what we're hoping for at this point in time. But now, let's talk about the toxicity of the Chicago Bulls. And you might be asking why I'm making this type of video. Why am I saying the Chicago Bulls are toxic or not toxic and stuff like that? Well, to be honest, the stories are there for you guys. If you go back across multiple months of the Chicago Bulls, you can clearly see that relationships from the Chicago Bulls are starting to, I guess, not necessarily diminish, but get further and further away from what it needs to be in order to be, I guess, a normal team in the NBA. Now, again, we are mediocre, I get that. We are a lot of things, I get that. Toxic, I'm not necessarily sure if that's the word to describe the Chicago Bulls, but let's just put it into perspective. The whole thing really starts with the first piece of news that I remember is when the front office and Zach Levine did not see eye to eye about the future of the organization. Relationships starting to crack. Relationships starting to, I guess, drift apart from each other. When the front office and your star player does not necessarily see eye to eye, that could be a major problem for the Chicago Bulls. And they're going to have to make a decision about what their future is going to be. Because ultimately, they have the power, not the star player. The star player is there to perform, do their job, I guess, lead this team into victories and everything in between. The front office, the ownership, everything in between for the Chicago Bulls, their job is to figure out the future directions of this team and to find the best possible way to start competing in the NBA. That's their goal. That's what their objectives need to be. So relationships and not seeing eye to eye, that can definitely be one form of toxicity around the Chicago Bulls. You obviously got the relationship with Billy Donovan and Zach Levine continuing to spread apart. So there's been so many stories, so many rumors at least, about Zach Levine and Billy Donovan's relationship getting a lot worse as time goes on. It started with the Orlando Magic game. Zach Levine had 4 points. We were all screaming for him to get benched. He got benched, and Zach didn't like that. So at the end of the day, it seems like from then, the relationship is slowly starting to drift away from each other between Billy Donovan and Zach Levine. And you've heard stories all the way around it from that point in time until now. There are still stories about Zach Levine and Billy Donovan, how the relationship has been tarnished or how the relationship has been severed and stuff like that. So that's another form of potential toxicity around the Chicago Bulls. Obviously, again, there was a story as well that the relationship is completely done between Zach Levine and Billy Donovan, and that, I guess, the players are on Billy Donovan's side and stuff like that. To me, I don't necessarily believe that. I don't necessarily think the relationship is done between Zach Levine and Billy Donovan, because if it was, I think the coach by now would have probably benched Zach Levine and not play him and just force him out of the Chicago Bulls in many ways and stuff like that. Star players do get punishments as well. In my opinion, Billy Donovan, at least Billy Donovan's side, Billy Donovan is not done with Zach Levine. Maybe Zach Levine is done with Billy Donovan and he's just doing his job like what he did with Jim Boylan. He's just going to play because he has to. But I think Billy Donovan is not done with Zach Levine in terms of that relationship. So I don't necessarily believe that, but that is another story that could bring to your attention. Not to mention the unknown of Javonte Green and the unknown of Lonzo Ball. That is something that definitely sends Bulls fans and probably the Bulls players' heads in a spiral, because you just don't know when these players are going to return. And of course, the negative records, the inconsistent performances, the constant quotes, the repeating quotes from everybody. There is some sort of toxicity in this team. But I'll tell you what, I don't think the Chicago Bulls are toxic. At least the organization itself. I don't think the Bulls itself are toxic. I think a lot of the arguments and a lot of the conversations we are having are relatively normal, to be honest. The relationship between the coach and the players, again, that's usually a sign of the coach probably needs to go, or you need to, I guess, change some of these players. I don't necessarily call that toxic. There's not one person bringing some really horrifically bad attitude to the Chicago Bulls, at least from my understanding. I know a lot of people question Zach Levine's IQ, question Zach Levine in a lot of ways, but I don't necessarily think he's a toxic player, in my opinion. And the same goes with DeMar, with Vooch, and the whole team. I don't think this whole team is toxic, nor do I believe the relationship of this team is in complete ruins. I think the players are still very, very close, very, very tight unit. And I think you can see that. Look at the All-Star break. You saw DeMar DeRozan out there supporting Ayo Dosunmu. That's still a very good relationship that those two have. Same with Patrick Williams and DeMar. Probably same as everybody else. Dalen Terry and DeMar. DeMar seems to be the guy that is keeping a lot of these relationships together in many ways. But at the end of the day, that is still, in my opinion, a big part of this team. They're very, very close together. But sometimes being close doesn't necessarily reflect to wins. You've got to actually show your chemistry on the court. It's the same with anything, really. It's good that you're friends. It's good that you're having a great time together and whatnot. But if it doesn't reflect to wins, it doesn't necessarily always show. I don't think the relationship is completely broken with the Chicago Bulls. I don't necessarily think that these guys are done with each other. But at the end of the day, you can't deny that there are some big problems here. But toxicity is not a problem, in my opinion, with this Chicago Bulls team. In fact, I would welcome more toxicity. I would love to see some chaos around the Chicago Bulls right now. It's one of the big reasons why I think a lot of people want a guy like Patrick Beverley into the team. Someone that is going to talk what he needs to say, be brutally honest, doesn't care about who he hurts in the process. He's a guy that will defend his teammates to the moon and back and stuff like that. I think a lot of people want Patrick Beverley because he brings an element of toxicity into this team, an element of chaos into this team. And I think that's actually what we kind of need. I think everything is a little bit too nice for the Chicago Bulls. Everybody's friendly with each other. Everybody is happy with each other. Everybody loves being around each other. No one has a bad thing to say about each other, and everything in between. And the coaching staff is the same. Players coach always puts the players' priorities first. We'll always focus on making these players happy because a happy environment means better basketball and everything in between. I get all of that. But in my opinion, this team is too nice and it's not toxic enough. I think certain successful teams, when things don't go wrong or things don't go right for them, they'll have that toxicity in their team to try and change things up a bit. They'll have some chaos. They'll go a little bit crazy. They'll try and do some things that not other NBA teams will be willing to do. Again, I think it's a common part of the process. There's an element of too toxic, like the Lakers team before they traded everybody. That team was extremely toxic because it got to the point where no one was really even trying on that team to win games. And the relationship was just completely gone. It seemed like there was no hope for them left. Then they made those trades. I think the Lakers are doing very well at this point in time. For the Bulls, it seems like everybody's too nice, but there's no toxicity there around the Chicago Bulls whatsoever. There's no chaos. And I put those two things together because I think they can both generate some good things for the Bulls if you have a little bit of it in a team. Not overly toxic, not overly chaotic, but just a little bit. Adding some of that into this team, I think, could do the worlds of good. So I truly think there are not a lot of people on that team being brutally honest with each other and actually holding each other accountable. I don't think that's actually been given to the Chicago Bulls team. Because if you think about it, if people were brutally honest or people were held accountable, especially our coaching staff, if our coaching staff held some of these players accountable, you would see some of our star players not play in the fourth quarter. You would see some of our star players get a little bit less minutes than what they would normally get because that's what needs to happen. Sometimes you got to go with the hotter hand. The adjustments. In my opinion, part of Billy Donovan's negative adjustments or not making adjustments is because he doesn't hold players accountable for their bad performances and he sticks to the minutes and the rotation that he likes to go with, even though sometimes it's just not the right way to go. Again, there are loads and loads of examples I can give to you guys. But yes, I think there are problems with this Bulls team. I think the coaching staff and the players' relationship could be a problem. I think the fact that our results are a big problem. I also believe the fact that this whole story that the players are picking Billy Donovan over Zach Levine, if that's true, that's a problem. I get all of that. But in my opinion, the biggest problem is the Bulls team is way too nice. That's honestly what I feel like it is. I think it's way too nice, and I think there's too much happiness and just joy being around each other, very close friendships, and there's not one real person that can make a big difference and tell people what they need to hear. on a consistent basis. Maybe when you're on a 6-game losing streak like we are, people will say what they need to say. Because they're athletes and they have some egos at the end of the day. That's how you get to the NBA. But I don't think it happens anywhere near enough, and that's where our big problem lies. The reactions are not good enough, and they're not consistent enough. So I think they need to have more toxicity into the team. They need to have someone that's going to be hard-headed with them and add some chaos to them. And that's kind of a reason why I want Russell Westbrook as well in many ways, because I think he brings chaos. I think he brings tenacity. I think he brings that hard work. So again, I don't think the problem is the Bulls are toxic. That's basically my answer. But let me know in the comments below what you think. At the end of the day, people will see it differently. And I'd like to know what you guys think in the comments below. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're new. And I'll see you in the next Chicago Bulls video. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay tuned for more. Take care and peace.